tempting to go live with YouTube. Great. Hi, YouTube. We are live. Last one. We're going live now with LinkedIn. We hope we get there as well. Fantastic. Okay, I think we should be there. All right. So we are, as always, live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Kick, and Twitch, or whichever your platform of choice is. And this is another ad hoc live building business session. If you haven't watched this before, if you're watching this for the first time already, hi, my name's Dan. I've worked in software for about 20 years, always as an employee, and I'm trying to build out my own business, but mainly to help as many people as I can. So all of this is in aid of helping people to get more connected, helping people get healthier, helping give back as much as I can to all of the things that I've personally gained in my life over time. And I'm doing this live because I truly believe in the power of both authenticity, but also transparency and trust. So not only is this a good way of holding me accountable, right? If I'm explaining what it is that I'm doing as I'm doing it, I think that forces me to think in a very different way than if it's just in my own mind. Two, I hope it's going to help teach people a few tips and tricks as to maybe how to build a business, unless I fail, in which case it'll teach you how definitely not to do it. Either way, you'll learn something. And three, I want this to serve as a record so that when I do get months down the line, if this does turn into a business, if anybody has any concerns about the ethics, the background, the authenticity or the honesty of what it is that I'm trying to put out there, they will have a historic record, should they want to go see it, of everything. So I'm sort of exposing myself and being quite vulnerable here. But I think that's important to me, and even if nobody watches the next however many videos that I'm going to do, I'm going to keep doing them because it's important to me. Okay, so with that said, the last time around, let's hope that this is zoomed in enough for everybody to see. The last time around, we were primarily rounding off challenge development. So we looked at this and we said, look, the challenge that we're trying to solve is a real problem in England and Wales for registered charities, of which there are 170,000. That is a lot of registered charities, with over, I think there's something like 1 million employees and God knows how many volunteers. This is a big industry. But 95% of those charities are operating on incomes below $1 million. Right, so some of them are serving their purpose with that, which is great. Others aren't, and they're really struggling. And as time goes on and things get more complex, some of the people who are out there just trying to do good for everybody else are not necessarily being helped or enabled in the way that we would like. And in fact, 72% of those charities can't afford digital tools, which is insane. And all of these, I've linked all of these out so you can go and have a look at the numbers if you're interested in this problem. But it's a big challenge. So what we've also done so far is looked at why. Why is that actually happening, right? Does it have a simple, easy to solve background or root cause, and we can just wave a magic wand and make all the problems go away? And predictably, no. You've got 1 million people working in the charity sector. If it was easy, it would have already been done. And so the reality is that there is a lot of complexity in this. And there were 5 themes that we came across to, I guess, highlight how much of a challenge this is. Not just an internal challenge, but a challenge with financing, the way the market works, challenge with software, all sorts of things. So the 5 big groups were, first of all, operational complexity. Small charities, oh my goodness, I've spoken to a few of them, and they are working in an insane world where the level of expectation is high because they're working in a regulated environment. Of course, they don't just have money that they can go and chuck at loads of people to give them lots of help. but the number of activities that they have to do, not just to run the business, to run the charity, to operate it, to deliver the services that they're trying to deliver, right? The help that they're trying to get to other people. And then on top of that, imagine all the people that are funding them and that they want to go back to. They've now got to translate, right, all of the impact that they've delivered back up the chain to just an immense number of people. So the complexity of operations in small charities is, imagine a small business. If you haven't worked in a small charity, if you have, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, imagine a small business and then just honestly 3x the problem. And you can imagine how frustrating it is to be in the position of knowing that you can help people and not being in the position where you're able to, just because of the amount of stuff that you have to do. Hugely galling. So that's one big challenge that drives the rest of the challenges. So not all problems are software problems, right? A lot of them are people, organization, bringing the right people together, timing, soft skills, all sorts of different things. But software does help and speed us up. Like any technology, any tool that we get, it can help. Now, the problem is in the software market that despite a lot of companies saying, oh, it's easy to start something up, if you want to start up complex software that really, really is there to help businesses and does something special, it's not cheap, right? You've got the people costs, you've got building the tool, you've got coding it, and don't tell me that AI can code a complex B2B application. Maybe in a couple of years, not yet. Don't believe it. So yeah, it just costs a lot of money for a software company to exist. And then there's, of course, huge competitive pressure to keep innovating and keep giving people what they want and keep helping in new and exciting ways as new innovations elsewhere in the market come out. All of that costs money. So because there isn't a massive pool of money in the world to help solve this problem, right, where you can just say, okay, cool, we'll give 30 million to a software company without any expectation and hope that they build something cool, right? That doesn't really happen. So what happens instead is a lot of software companies either have to bootstrap, so they use their own money, invest their life savings, their house, everything into sort of crossing their fingers and hoping it works out and that there's a payoff at the end of it. Or, I mean, this is sort of more typical, they take on private funding or debt from outside parties. Could be as small as family members, but it could be venture capital firms, it could be private equity, it could be public when you get that big, right? It goes on. But the problem is that means they have to operate as a for-profit company, right? Because the people giving them the money often are not charities, right? They want a return or to sell the business on. And so this combination of costs to get good people into the business and the funding mechanisms that are available to these organizations means that they have to charge. And not only do they have to charge the cost, but they also have to charge to make a profit and to grow and to invest and blah, 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 blah. All of which means they end up in one of two models. One, you pay me a bunch of money on a monthly basis for my software. If you're a small charity that isn't sure if they're going to be around in the next 6 months, no, I can't do that. One, I can't afford it. And two, I can't even imagine signing up for a year, let alone 3 years or whatever else. Two, they might go down the route of saying, hey, we are going to take a percentage of the donations that you secure, which I think is reasonable for a small startup. If you're saying, hey, we just need to get started, we need to get a few donations in, and if we can use something for free and we have to give a percentage of that, I think we can probably justify that and swing that with the people that are donating. If it's reasonable, that's okay. That doesn't solve all the problems. It solves it if you're using a platform for donations. But what about all the other operational problems that you have, right? So that's only a piece of the problem. And you cannot go out to 10 different technology vendors and say, cool, I will give you each 2%, because where does it end? So it's really a problem, right? Like and what it means is that charities have to be judicious as to what software they buy, when, how, what they invest in, which just adds into the operational complexity that they've already got. And we've also discovered that strategy is a problem, right? Like many small charities don't have a clearly defined vision and strategy. They might feel it, but it's not really well articulated. And so when they get beyond one or two people, it starts to break down, right? There's no baseline for technology. There's no idea of, okay, well, we're working in spreadsheets now, but how do we evolve and when do we evolve and how is this going to mature? Because it doesn't feel like a problem that needs to be solved. So it gets really big and then it becomes a problem later. And honestly, this is me coming from a technology world. I was initially surprised, but then it made complete sense that, you know, not everybody in those organizations is massively digitally savvy. You know, you've got people giving up their time, and even if they are, they might be doing this as something on the side, right? Which they're not dedicated to full time because they can't even afford to pay themselves yet in the charity. So there often isn't a technology strategy at all. And then I guess to layer onto the financials, right? It's not just about, okay, great, I've got a great strategy, and you know, I've got a bit of money, so I can spend it on some software. But a lot of the time they can't, right? Like it's actually hard to get money for software. It's hard to convince grants and donors and everything else. Like, hey, I need to get this random piece of operational software, and it'll have this impact and allow me to do this and allow me to do that. And that means that I can deliver this much benefit to my beneficiaries and cause this impact. Really hard to make that tie. So, you know, a lot of grants just out and out say, hey, this isn't for your operations. This isn't for how you get stuff done. This is just to go to benefit the people at the end, and it needs to be direct. So it's hard, right? Like it's hard to get the money for it. It's hard to continue to get the money for it. And there is risk, right? What happens if I get the money to buy software today and then tomorrow that money isn't there, right? So there's quite a lot of risk involved, more so for a charity, I would argue, than for a small business, right? Because if your small business doesn't work, yes, you might be causing yourself pain and a couple of employees, but if your charity people start to rely on that service and then it goes away, you know, you're not in a good place. And I won't touch on maturity, but I think these are just all the additional things, right? Like there's no training, there's no resources. I will say there are a lot of bodies out there that help small charities that I think are doing a really good job already to solve a lot of these problems. So, you know, when I looked at this combination, I thought, okay, I'm not here to solve the world's problems, but what I can do, I think, is we can definitely make some tools and some software to help with the operational complexity. So check, I already know we can do that. The other piece of this, though, is how do we solve this problem, right? How do we make this free? I don't know the answer to that yet, but I am going to figure it out. And how can we solve some of these problems right along the way? How do we help with strategy? How do we help with financials? How do we help with everything else? So we ended up at this provocation. So how might we develop a sustainable model for delivering free, purpose-built, no commitment? That is far too many M's, no commitment. And modular digital solutions for leaders, employees, and volunteers, maybe trustees as well, of small registered charities in England and Wales, in a way that does all this stuff so that they can focus on their core mission of delivering support to beneficiaries in need. And going all the way back to the start, my own personal aim is to really enable people with healthier, more connected and fulfilling lives. So what we've done now, you'll see here, we haven't talked about product, we haven't talked about tools, we haven't talked about any specifics at all. And a lot of this diagnosis has come from just getting out into the small charity community and speaking to as many people as you can. So I'm doing this a little bit topsy-turvy because I started talking to people before I started doing these live streams because I didn't really understand the market. I hadn't worked in it. But I guess the message here is before moving on to even the idea, make sure you understand the problem And for me, I will continue, hopefully on a weekly basis, to talk to more and more people, to really flesh this out and find other hidden causes to enable me to understand what is it that I'm actually trying to solve for. Am I just dealing with a surface level pain, or am I really focusing on solving the underlying issues that exist in this space? Okay, this has been Dan's TED Talk for the day, but hopefully that gives you a little catch up and helps you understand where I've been going. I can't imagine that anybody at all is watching this, but I am going to flick across just to see if I can find. We have one current viewer on LinkedIn. That might be me. We have no viewers, or maybe one viewer on YouTube. That might also be me. Kick. Nope. Twitch, we have one that I suspect will be me. Cool. So this is fine. I'm not really monitoring chat at the moment, so on the off chance that anybody is chatting to me or sending me messages or adding comments or doing whatever else, sorry, can't see you right now. That'll be one for me to solve next week. But let's start to change this up a bit. So I'm going to talk less and build more. That was completely the wrong tab. We will come back to that. Where am I going and what am I doing? Okay, so some of this, I've actually done a little bit of customer research already, but I wanted to almost start from scratch to make sure that I'm really understanding, when I say small charities, what is it that I mean? And what are the different types? And what is it that I can learn about the market? What of that is going to influence what I build, who I build for, when I build, how I build, etc., and how I go out to people in the fastest and most efficient way possible. Sorry if you've got a bit of camera shake. I have my camera resting on a crappy little holder at the moment. As I said, I'm not a live streamer, so I am figuring this out as I go along. Okay, so customer research. We're going to move on from challenge development and we're going to come into deeper customer research. So what I want to do is 4 things. I want to understand how the market is already segmented, right? Like one of the things that I enjoy doing is leveraging work that already exists before I try and reinvent the wheel. So I may even start this with just some very, very simple Google searches. We'll see. Maybe some LLM work as well. I do want to start categorizing and cataloging the roles that exist in organizations. What I found so far is that the charity space was very similar to my experience of the tech startup space, where you have a lot of words and titles that are used for roles. And whilst broadly they kind of operate in the same space, what that person does is often very different based on how early they were in the charity, their capabilities, and what that charity actually needs to accomplish. So, for example, a director of operations in one organization might be, actually, this was the founder that's taken a back seat, which is often a very good seat. Or it might be somebody who's coming in to help bring things together, or it might be somebody who's just doing back office stuff, right? There's a real variation. So it's important that we understand the people that we're talking to. We're not going to do roles today. We're also not going to do interview insights today. This is going to be sort of a catalog. I don't actually know what that's going to look like yet. I don't know if this will be a big catalog because there's so much stuff in there. But I wanted a place to be able to record, hey, here's what I've heard. Here's what other people have said. So it might be a list of quotes by category. I may lean on a startup course that I did for some of that. I'm not sure yet. But I'm going to use this sort of segmentation, roles, interview insights, and challenge to develop a few personas. And so when we're going in later to what we're going to build, I am going to be leaning heavily on who I'm building for, right? Putting people in the middle rather than just the problem, because I think that'll help. Okay, so that's enough explanation for today. Let's do some actual building in the next 20 to 30 minutes because I've talked far too much today. So segmentation, where do I want to start with this? I'm going to try and think out loud. So I know that the Charity Commission, so let's start there, will definitely have some information. I'm going to use ChatGPT. No, I'm not actually. What am I going to use? No, I'm going to not. I'll maybe do LLMs tomorrow. I am going to search Google for UK charity segmentation, see what comes up. And in fact, let's start there. Why not? Okay, so it looks like I've actually looked at this before. So we have, interesting. So most of this looks like donor segmentation. Targeted messages asks segmentation for marketing on Charity Connect, donor segmentation. Okay, so this is all donor segmentation. So I am going to ignore that because I'm actually quite interested in it. But that is not the point of today. This is another hard thing about building your business. Keep your focus. Donor segmentation. Okay, so this is actually good. When I care about donor segmentation, I can definitely come back to this. Public trust and charities might be useful to see. Segmentation, stewardship. Okay, so I'm going to take out the word donor here. See if that helps. And I'm going to take out fundraising. It might be that this is the wrong phrase for me to use. This is now... I don't think particularly helpful. So I'm going to see if I can find anything on the Charity Commission. Let's have a look. Finding, blah, blah, blah. Latest. I'm sure that I've seen something here before. In fact, you know what? I am an idiot. Back in my challenge development, because I did my research, there is charities by income band. Okay, so let's see what we can learn from this, because I only briefly covered it before. Okay. So some of this information we'll already know. But I think some of this is going to be quite interesting. So what I'm going to do is, I think for today, I'm just going to write down a little bit of detail in a notepad file. I'm not going to add this to the website because I don't think that's useful. I'm going to do this after I've done the call. So let's have a look. So we've got main charities and linked charities. That's not so much segmentation. I think we're still at the overview here. So we have, although I didn't notice this information before, so I'm going to take a note of this. So we've got, just over 900,000 trustees. And we've got, there we go. I said I didn't know how many volunteers there were. Look what happens when you look for 6.5 million. That's crazy. Over 6.5 million volunteers. You know what as well? This makes me really happy. Imagine that, 6.5 million people volunteering, right? Like giving up their time, not getting paid, turning up because they want to help others. I mean, if you take one thing away from today, that is, yeah, phenomenal. Even if there's probably a little bit of duplication in there, right? I would guess, because it's going to come from reports, and one charity might report a volunteer and another charity might report the same volunteer. They're only going to report numbers. They're not going to report names. So some people who volunteer twice will be, or for two different organizations, I imagine will be counted twice. Possibly the same for trustees. But either way, I mean, that's still, let's say it's lower than 3 million. I mean, that just makes me happy. That restores a little bit of my faith in humanity. Okay, so we have income, growth, and expenditure. I'm not so worried about that now. income and endowments. Although I might skip this bit. So this is one of the fun things about the Charity Commission. They do ask for a lot of information, but I think there's a piece of them that are like, I can't ask a very small charity to catalogue all of this. But once they start getting bigger, my expectation level for them grows. So you do get a lot of information about where income is coming from and where that income is going to for organizations with an income greater than 500,000. So that's not really us. So I'm going to move on from that section. This is where I got this 1 million employees, although I wonder whether that's only for the big guys. So it might be more. Either way, millions of people in this. I love it. Okay, so we can categorize charities by income band. And so this is where I think it'll get quite interesting. So let's think about what we might need to think about and what this actually means. So I've said before there are about 170,000 charities, and you can see here, this is one of the issues that I have, is that when we're talking about there being quite a lot of money, right? Like this is £100 billion just for England and Wales in income coming in. 65 billion of that is just going to 1,500 charities. Now, these will be, there's a good reason for that. These will be very long established generational charities that have been built over a very long time. They have a wide range of distributed income. So there is a reason, right? Like they're just a tour de force. Frankly, I think you can say what you like about charities being run well or badly. I think generally if a charity's reached this level, they're obviously doing something right. Or maybe much more sneaky than I give them credit for. And it does seem like once you get over 1 million, you're going to continue to climb, right? So you can see in these numbers, to me, it feels like there are some real breaking points. So the first one is maybe what we might consider, and I'll borrow a term from a company that I used to work for, who I really enjoyed working for, called Birdie. And this isn't a Birdie thing, but this is I thought about it more while I was there, and this is micro. So the tiniest of tiniest of tiniest of organizations, could just be one person, right? But we have a lot of people who are in that state, who have 0 to 5K. And so I think this income band is going to be an important part of our segmentation, because I feel like you're just going to have different challenges. Some of these 55,000 may not need our help at all. Maybe a very, very small, just for one purpose cause that they have created a charity to wrap around, and it's delivering all of its benefit. It could be, hey, I've had a great idea. I want to start off a charity, and they've started it, but haven't really started it yet. Right, so they don't have deep operational issues. So I don't necessarily think that we should exclude these income bands. And in fact, that's one of the things that I've got as part of my ethics is whatever I build, whatever I create, whatever people help make with me, I want to be very inclusionary, right? The problem is most of the time, if you're operating a private business and you're thinking about return, you're thinking, who has money that they can spend on me, right? And that might be really blunt, and I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers there. People will get irritated by that, but private business, make money, don't take on personal risk, right? That's the draw. That's why they've been so successful. So I need to get myself out of that mindset as well. So yeah, this isn't exclusionary. I think I want to exclude companies who are over 1 million. Charities who are over 1 million. I do love the work that you do, but I also think that you have a range of solutions that you can get at that are different. And I suspect that if I build for this market, you will get benefit from that as well. Because you will. I don't feel like I need to justify that. So yeah, this is a long way of saying, I think being able to segment by income band, making sure that when I'm speaking to people, I'm conscious of the income band that they are in, so that I'm hearing the challenges and the diagnosis based on phase, will start to come in here. So I am going to record this. Good news is, right, there's an even spread. I don't feel like I need to take that. Oh, there will be more detailed information included in the file that is shown on this page. Always read things. You will not be able to see my screen. So I am opening this. Let me just double check to see if there's anything super interesting in that isn't included in here. So we also have the average gross income. Okay, I need to start writing these down now. So financial segmentation. Focus. So I have income bands that I could use. I have the average gross income. But I think average gross income is sort of interesting for a different reason. Does that affect what I'm going to build? Possibly not, but I want to keep it down. Average expenditure. Now, you can't see this, but this is kind of interesting. The average gross income for the range of 0 to 5K income band is £1,128. The gross expenditure, the average expenditure, £3,421. And in fact, the average expenditure is higher than the average gross income in every case until you get to, that's good, until you reach our magical marker of 500 to 1 million. So I think there's a story there, right? Like this is another, I don't know what that story is yet, but I will probably ask. If you know, let me know. But I think this is why it's good to segment. You find things out as you're going along as well. Okay, so we have no, that's not helpful. A lot of what's in this spreadsheet is for the bigger guys. Although we do have the number of trustees in total in each of these segments as well. Although I'm not sure how that would help. Maybe I could take the average number of trustees. That might tell me something else. Average trustees bracket. Okay, cool. I think that is going to be enough on that page for today. You're just looking at a blank screen. That's not very entertaining, is it? Okay, so I think we've got probably what we need from this page. Charities by income category. Latest income more than 500,000. Boo. However, let's have a look. You know, I think this is interesting though. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but I do wonder if a smaller charity broke this down that was, let's say, 200 or 300,000, what this would look like and if it would be very different. You know, is it all charitable activities? Or is it something else? I imagine that legacies will be a massive part for older organizations who have shown benefit for so long that people feel comfortable leaving them very large gifts even after they've passed. Yeah, fascinating this. Anyway, so I don't think that there is much else that's going to help me on this page by way of segmentation. But we do have some. And what I do want to do, if I go back, I know that there were a couple of bodies that came up here. So Think NPC was one. which is not going to be non-playable character. So let's try this thing. NPC charity segmentation. See if anything comes up here. No, this is still going to be... So interesting that this doesn't exist. Oh, actually, I know. While I go back, got to remember to use my my existing links. So we did have the charity digital skills report. This is really cool, by the way. They've done a big bunch of stats around how charities are doing with digital. I really like this. Some of it's really interesting, right? So 76% of charities feel they've made digital progress. 72% are struggling digitally, right? So there's I don't think it's conflicting, but there's some stuff in there. I actually remember this report now. Let's see if we can read it online. Hopefully they won't mind me doing this. Overall, leadership, procurement. I don't think this is going to help us segment, but I do think that's another interesting way to segment, actually, is the type of business. So whenever I'm doing this, what I'm not doing is hoping for a magical thing that says, hey, here's all of the segmentation that you can possibly do. Right, a lot of you watching this will already know how to segment, right? You'll understand the basics of it or the need for it. And yes, I can segment geographically. I can segment thermographically, or when you're getting down to people on behaviors, or there's lots and lots of different ways that marketing people who are far smarter than I am will tell you that you should segment. I think the way that I think about this is as I'm reading. It's forcing me to find more resources, so that's always good. I'm a big believer in learning. And sometimes when you're going through this, it just creates another little spark, right? So you've got to let this thing percolate. You've got to let it develop. Unless you're really personally working in the market already, and you know this stuff inside out, you will always learn stuff. So I know what each of these are, but it's a good reminder to segment by the company type. So we can have a CIO, limited by guarantee, and a kick. There are actually others as well. And I think the way that each of those are registered, again, are going to cause different challenges, different needs. And so that's going to be important to understand what type of organization we're working with, because the regulation for that organization is going to affect not just that need, but who they can go out to get funding from, how successful they are, and so on. I actually wonder how many people know, hey, of the umpteen different options you've got, here's how to pick the right one for you. Social enterprise, community business. So I think that's fine. So 53% provide frontline services to individuals. So I think that's another really interesting thing. I'll have to find out if I can do that. So frontline services to individuals. So I wonder how different the operational challenge is if you're doing that. I mean, if you're dealing with people, I'm thinking of a charity that I help. You have a lot to do. There's a lot of responsibility, safeguarding everything else. So I think that will add another layer or another set of things. So that's a good one. Do they provide, or maybe segment by service type might be a good way to think about that. So 64% are at an early stage with digital, curious and starting out. Yeah, you can see here that it's declined. I mean, money's going away, squeezed finances, lack of headspace. This is actually funny. I hadn't seen this before, but it's good that this report it validates a lot of the things that I'm I'm starting to note down. I think that's going to be enough. Yeah, okay. I don't want to give away too much of this report. This is a really good report, though. Go read it. I'm hoping that my shameless promotion of it will mean that I don't get in trouble for sharing a couple of bits on a live stream. I'm sure I won't. Don't know the rules around that. Forgive me if I do. But yeah, really like that. Go download it. So what was I saying? Segment by service type. And I think maybe then we can also segment by technology maturity level, right? Is another way that we might go about it. So I think that's been useful. Okay, so let's do a quick review of what we've got so far. So we have income bands, average gross income, average expenditure, the average number of trustees, the company type, the service type, the technology maturity level. So we've done well, although I've been talking garbage. We've actually got 7 of these already. The other thing that I've just thought of that seems like the most obvious one, if I come back to the challenge again, is charitable purposes. Now, it might be that you are dealing with a number of different charitable purposes, but I think it would be really interesting to understand whether problems and needs differ significantly by charitable purpose, or more specifically, which problems are the same and which problems are different or unique in this. I imagine that the advancement of religion will have some different problems and challenges versus the advancement of amateur sport, right? But they're still both human challenges, so we still need to communicate, we still need to drive awareness. So I'm going to include this one as well, and I'm pretty confident that I can get at that data. So this is the other thing. You might have great ideas as to how to segment. The second question is, can I even get that data, right? Does that data exist already, or am I going to have to first-hand market research it? And do I even have the possibility to do that? Maybe I need to do that later. So I think what I'm trying to do today is not so much worry about, is this data available, but to call out the ways that I think would be useful to segment. And then I'll worry about, can I get to the data later? So let's do charitable purposes. Sorry, I'm moving around here because my notepad is right behind the camera. And I am just going to take a pause to see whether things are still even streaming. Oh, I've got 2 viewers on LinkedIn now. That's terrifying. Still just the one on YouTube. None on Kick. Kick hates me. Boo, Kick. And Twitch too. That is fine. Okay, so let's have a look. So I think we've got charitable purposes. I think the last thing that I'm going to do today, before I draw this stream to a close, is maybe just look at the charity, not the charity API. What am I looking for? The Charity Commission API portal. So let's see if. Oh, so this could be good. So sorry, I should explain the Charity Commission for England and Wales have some phenomenal data. In fact, I honestly, having lived in a couple of different places around the world, I'm so impressed by the gov.uk site. It just has a lot of stuff. It's one of the very few things that I think the government of this country gets right. Is successive governments is this site and our access to data. I think as a citizen, I feel quite enabled by what they do. It's really good, and it's quite inspirational as to how they chunk up the content as well. But yeah, they have an API, so a way that I can pull out data, and they've documented what's in here. So yeah, look, I can download a list of charities with general charitable purposes, and for who. Oh, that's interesting as well. And how? So do they give grants or not? Oh, I love this. The general public / mankind. That's great. So yeah, so we can also segment by grant makers or not. That's helpful. Provides other finance. So yeah, I think this how section, I actually really like. Maybe this is a great way. Maybe they've done my job for me. Segment by what, who, how. Yeah, umbrella or resource body. Okay, good. I'm going to leave the stream for there today because I think I'm now going into my head and thinking a few different things. This is not as helpful. I'm no longer building the business, but let's talk about what we do next time. And let's also see, it would help if I could remember the link of my own site, wouldn't it? So I had written down a few notes before. Let's see how many of these we've got. So yeah, geographic purpose we can do. Charitable purpose I had taken down before, so I've rediscovered that. That's good. Income expenditure, maturity phase, trustees, employees, volunteers. And I think today we have added income expenditure, income bands, average income, average number of trustees, not total, the company type, the service type, whether or not they're grant makers or not, and a few others. So my homework, which would be very boring to watch, is to go and plug this into this site. And what I'm probably going to do is make a table of this to define what each of these are and what I mean by them, to see whether I can get any other, to see whether there are any data sources for each of them. If I, along my travels, come up with any other ways of segmenting, I'll add them there. And then what I might take a crack at doing is just take a random stab at prioritization. So which of these do I feel will be most impactful for any strategy that I'm going to develop later on? And where are my gaps in knowledge? Who do I feel I really don't have a good understanding of yet? And so this is it, right? Like segmentation, I love doing this. It really forces you to understand the market that you're going to. More than that, it highlights things that you just do not know. And even today in this live session, I've thought about 10 things. I'm like, oh man, how have I never asked that question before on a call when I've been researching this? So doing your segmentation isn't just a tick box exercise. It has a huge impact on your product development, on how you're going to form your business, how you're going to go to market, and who you're going to go to market to first, and the problems that are out there. So yeah. Okie dokie, I am going to end this now. Thank you to the one of you who's decided to look at some of this, unless it's just two of me. Even if it's my wife, thank you, wife. If it's not my wife, thank you, mysterious viewer. I'm going to go goodbye. We're going to shut these down one at a time. So we're going to say goodbye to our unfriendly channels that don't want to see me. Goodbye, Kick. Goodbye, Twitch.